How you doing? Let's have a conversation about how the flow of information impacts an organization's operations. Please join me on this journey of knowledge dissemination. Enjoy the video. IT support. Wow, let's talk about it. Specifically, IT support within higher education. As you could imagine, a lot of the dynamics that occur in such environment are very similar to that you could imagine in any other environment, whether it's IT or non-IT. But what's interesting about IT support in higher education is that over time, the conventional thought is that those IT staff should merely exist as operate and maintain, only to keep systems running, or when a new employee has been hired, simply to onboard them and make sure they sign into their correct systems. And that's it. But I think, especially in the age of AI and all the great technologies available, there is an opportunity to lean into a higher value add, an opportunity to grow, to shift to this higher value added mindset. I have a few hypotheses, just a few. Okay. So, one hypothesis is pretty obvious, is that IT staff lose time when critical knowledge is fragmented across multiple systems. Another hypothesis is that tacit knowledge, information and know-how and awareness that's not documented, is operationally important. A third hypothesis, as you could surmise by me articulating my dissatisfaction with the status quo, is that current workflows are inadequate. Strictly sticking to an operate and maintain mentality will not be enough to meet the moment and the needs of today. A fourth hypothesis is that a relationship-centered solution is more useful relative to a transactional-based solution. A fifth hypothesis is almost obvious, but it's one that is rooted in the idea that institutions actually want this, that IT staff who work in higher education environments would actually welcome this type of approach, this type of solution. Not just the IT staff, but also the faculty and non-IT staff who rely on the IT staff. They would also welcome the IT staff being empowered, being able to address their support needs with greater precision, greater agility, greater consistency, and it would be any IT staff member who would be empowered to do that. So let's think about that IT staff member. Working at higher education, they have a particular job to do. All they want to do is help non-IT staff members and faculty do their jobs effectively, efficiently. Unfortunately, sometimes when they're searching for information to understand how best to support those individuals, that information isn't always as clean cut. It's not always up to date. Maybe that information exists in multiple systems. So now that IT staff member has to search multiple sources for partial information that maybe doesn't have a full context and try the best to assist a staff member or a faculty member. On the other side of that is someone who might be wondering what's going on. Why can't they solve my issue? The last time they reached out to IT, this particular individual, another individual, resolved their issue within minutes. Why is this one person seemingly taking forever? Why do they have to keep explaining themselves over and over again? And so you can imagine over time how the inconsistent quality, the inconsistent support can lead to questions, can lead to mistrust, can have a lot of unintended consequences. We start talking about shadow IT. By the way, I've got a video of that. And you can imagine the frustration for the IT staff, how disempowered they might feel when they can't find the right information at the right time. Does it have to be this way? Does it have to stay this way? I don't think so. I think that there is a better way to operate. I think there is an opportunity, as I mentioned a few moments ago, to exist beyond the operate and maintain imperative. So what would it look like to provide a higher value add? What would it look like if IT staff were empowered to do what they do best, to provide the best support they can to faculty and staff? It doesn't have to be this way. There could be a much better way. The better way looks like a shift from a fragmented knowledge ecosystem to something that's more centralized. You perhaps have a centralized location that appreciates the full context of the relationships that exist between the IT staff members and the non-IT staff members and faculty. And it's that relationship, those relationships that provide the crucial context to know how best to support those individuals. When you think about a very important question, what is the best way for IT staff to spend their time? It really is a fascinating thing, right? Does it truly make sense for IT staff to continually reinvent the wheel, to continually relearn certain things that are highly context specific over and over again? Okay, maybe for some IT staff members, but they don't mind spending their time relearning the same things over and over again. But imagine the other side of that IT support issue. Imagine the experience of that faculty member or that staff member who is short on time and truly does not want to spend 20 minutes to explain context for a 2-minute problem. And so when you aggregate how many times that exists over and over again in any IT department within a higher education environment, you can imagine the frustrations that arise. That could also have unintended consequences where if staff or faculty members feel like they're not being supported, they'll try solutions on their own. Envisioning the better way of operating, where you are shifting from transactional to relationship oriented, allows IT teams to make the best of available technologies today, whether we're talking about AI, agentic tools, new ways of organizing information, whatever it may be. Shifting from an operate and maintain mindset to one that truly delivers higher value add, I think is the way to go. And when context matters, the status quo begins to fall apart. A lot of times the context is trapped in the minds of workers who've dealt with certain individuals before. Sometimes it's not always documented, or when it is documented, it might be incomplete, it might be outdated. uh, Technology alone will not solve for, right? You're not going to automate the relationships needed to properly support a staff or faculty member within a higher ed environment. However, it is also useful to lean into the technological opportunities that are present. And so having that growth mindset and introducing that into the dynamics of that environment, I think is the way to go. And so when we think about a fascinating question, what is the best way for these teams to spend their time? I believe that one way, a great way for them to spend their time is curating that rich knowledge. So that way we're not constantly unnecessarily reinventing the wheel, so that the experience of faculty and staff is significantly better, so that the trust that they have with the IT team is strengthened, and everyone is significantly better off. Well, that's it for this video. Quick, simple. I'd be curious to know what you think. Do you work in IT and higher education or IT in general? Have you experienced some of the things I spoke about? Or maybe you don't work in IT, but you've received IT support somewhere, maybe in a higher education environment or your existing workplace. Please feel free to share your experiences from that perspective as well. Either way, I encourage you to join the conversation, comment, subscribe, like, check out my website. Join the conversation. I love to hear other perspectives because knowledge is for everyone.